Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the second video on describing data and the first video on describing quantitative data. Today we're going to be looking at skewed quantitative data. Now hopefully you've gone through chapters 2 and 3 about categorical data, and honestly I would have made a video on that, except it's a lot of here's how you make this chart, here's how you make that chart, here's how you do a contingency table, here's how you do a pie chart. Honestly, just read the book. Let's be serious, people. Grow up, just read the book, do the work, do your homework. So we're going to take a look at skewed data, and right now you're seeing a table of college students' calorie intake. This data is 100% made up, but nonetheless it seems kind of reasonable to me, where the bulk of students have taking about 2,000 calories per day, while there are a handful of students well off to the right. So whenever we're describing quantitative data, we want to look at shape, outliers, center, and spread. So the shape of this data is, let me change the color of my pen here. Let's go with green. Who doesn't like green? We're going to go shape is going to be skewed right. And that's the focus of our work today, data that is skewed right. You know it is skewed right because we see this tail off on the right side. Now when you have data that's skewed to the right, it takes the mean and pulls it in that direction. So your average gets pulled this way. And that's really a bad thing because we want our measure of center to be accurate for the center. If you were to say, where is the average here? Is it at 2250? Or is it at 2000? I think you'd say the center should be at 2000. And that's going to be why we're not going to use the mean for skewed data and why we need to identify skewed data. It does not look like there are any outliers. We will talk about how to calculate outliers later. The center, what we are going to do is, since it's skewed right, we are going to measure center with the median. And since we're using the median, our measure of spread is going to be IQR and range. So these are all the things that we need to discuss when we have skewed data. Okay, so continuing with quantitative data, we're going to look at a set of data. We're going to look at test grades. So let's say we've got a test here. The bulk of your data, it looks like, is between 78 and 100, and your intuition would say 25 and 30 are outliers, but given that this is a statistics course, we need to have more than intuition that tells us if data is an outlier. So what we're going to do first, since we have skewed data with outliers, is report the 5-number summary. Alex, do you like the 5-number summary?
I do.
Yeah, I got Alex Eater here. He's doing his stats homework. This is pretty awesome. We're in resource this morning. We're having a fun time. What we're going to look at is the min, the first quartile, the median, the third quartile, and the max. So our minimum, let me change my pen, is right here. That's 25. So how are you doing today? Are we having a fun time? Learning math? It's great. Hope you're having a great day today. Hope your coffee was delicious this morning. Mine was delicious this morning. It's great. Everything's great. So the min and the max, those are pretty easy to find out. And I believe we should all know how to find a median. And the median here is going to be 83. What else? And then we need the quartiles. So our first quartile is 78. So you look at the bottom half of the data excluding the median, and you take the median of this data. which would put us at 78. Then we just have to do that on the top to find the third quartile. So we're going to look at the top half that's above the median and find the middle piece of data. And that, 90, is our third quartile. So the median represents our center, and we are also going to talk about range, which is going to be 75, and our IQR, which is 90 minus 78. So IQR is a fancy way of saying interquartile range. One of the things that we probably could have a more reasonable name for, except we want to sound as fancy as possible. So you take the third quartile and subtract off the first quartile. That gives us 12. So we have our measures of spread and our measures of center. Okay, so if we're thinking about shape, outliers, center, spread, which of that do we have here? Well, we've got our shape. It's skewed, specifically skewed to the left. We found our measure of center, which is median at 83, and our IQR and our range. So, going from there, the only thing we need to figure out is, ding, 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 you got it, the outliers. So let's get rid of the spot on the right, and remember that IQR is 12. So IQR is 12. We're going to do all of our work on the right. We're going to do something pretty awesome here, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to calculate the lower fence, and then we are going to calculate the upper fence. So the lower fence tells you if there are outliers or not in a set of data. So our lower fence is calculated by Q1 minus 1.5 times the IQR. So our lower fence is 78 minus 1.5 times 12, which is 78 minus 18, which is 60. So in my data, I'm going to highlight that barrier. So that is the lower fence at 60. Anything outside of the fences are outliers. So now we can represent 25 and 30 as outliers. Now, there's not always an outlier in a set of data. So, we're going to calculate the upper fence. The upper fence is Q3, the third quartile, plus 1.5 IQR. So that is going to be 90 plus 18, which is, believe it or not, 108. So the upper fence is right there. Notice there are no outliers on the top side of the data, on the large side of the data. So our outliers are 25 and 30. So the last part that we need to talk about to represent this data, outliers, are yes at 25 and 30, and it's very important that we show the calculations that told us how we know. Oh yeah, one last thing. All of this needs to be in context. Wow, that was pretty much the most ugly thing I've ever written. Never using that pen again in my life. Alright, so this video is at about 10 minutes. So that's my signal that we need to wrap up really soon. When you're saying it in context, we're going to say the center is at 83%. The spread is 12% on the test scores. The range is 75%, and these are specific outliers. And that's how you would represent it in context. So once again, I hope you're having a fabulous day, and hopefully statistics can beautify your life.